risky prize cards that could change the game, but ultimately, we can see the game plan is possible for both sides. I think they'll be hoping some of those cards are in their starting hands, and this might reduce the odds, but nothing too scary right there.
No, nothing too major. You know, Brent would have liked that Greninja to be in the deck to be able to start maneuvering those energies into the discard pile as soon as possible. But yeah, nothing too crazy. An opportunity for both sides to hopefully set up as we do kick off our round 3 of our Lille Regional Championships, and Brent is starting things off with that Battle VIP pass.
Oh, what a dreamy start. This is where they're going to find out those Pokemon that were in the prizes, but a little chance to deck check at this stage, and you just want to be filling out that bench as much as possible as the Gardevoir. And this is where we start to see a little bit more difficulty for the Gardevoir player when it comes to this matchup. They really need to set up a board state that down the line is safe from things like Sableye, because that's such a scary threat against Lost Box. Yeah,
definitely. And I guess just being able to see across the table that Giratina V he's already got an idea of what he's going to be up against. So not just kind of hiding things just when you typically see sometimes with just like a Comfort in the active spot. Brent will be looking and eyeing up, I'm sure, that Mew EX that we've kind of already highlighted.
So VIP to start. Excellent start.
Can't go wrong with a Battle VIP pass in your first turn. Of course, a card you can only play on your first turn, allowing you to grab 2 basic Pokemon and place them onto your bench. Does get the energy attachment as well. Level ball in hand, ready for things like the Curlier. Does just look like he's going to pass it over for Victor's first turn of his round 3 tournament as well.
Yeah, we saw in the hand there some next turn cards available. At this stage, the Giratina start can be all right, because you can, especially if you're going second, you can start to build up that Lost Zone with the Abyss Seeking nice and quickly. But a Battle VIP pass on both sides. And one card that we spoke a bit about in the pre-show, we were talking a little bit about the Path to the Peak and how very good that card could be in the meta with how much ability reliance there is. And Lost Giratina was one of those decks that was able to fit it in quite naturally, so maybe that could be a huge card in this matchup. Yeah,
it's definitely something where Lost Tina was able to then just adapt to the meta that was kind of coming, because obviously a lot of people are hyping up Lost Tina, maybe ahead of Worlds and then just post-Worlds as well, but just having to kind of tweak itself, include a few more copies. Victor here will be playing, or is playing, 4 copies of Path to the Peak here, just trying to limit as much as he can on Brent's side of the board. But as you already mentioned, being able to use Abyss Seeking is actually a really strong opportunity here for Victor. Just being able to get to that 10 nice and quick, nice and early, being able to activate both Sableye and Giratina V-Star's second attack as well, Star Requiem. Just being able to knock out things like that Guardi EX, because 310 HP is a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, so the Escape Rope into the Comfey, going to be in the active there, ready to start some flower selectings. I do see a Colress Experiment as well, so a lot going on this turn go in favor. I see the Jet Energy as well, which could set up that Abyss Seeking quite naturally. So this is looking to be a strong start for Victor, really getting that Lost Zone count as high as possible.
Looks like he's placed the Battle VIP pass into the hand as well, alongside that Jet you've already mentioned. Has already targeted from the first Battle VIP pass, that Cramorant with that Spit instantly attack, of course, does need the 4 cards in the Lost Zone to be able to do so, but is already underway with the 2. So does play his Battle VIP pass. I'd expect another Comfey. There's the Greninja as well, a card we've already highlighted on Brent's side. Lots of options here in the Tina list.
And the interesting thing for Victor is that early turn Lost Zone count going high is so useful to get the Greninja threat on board. Taking out potentially 2 rolls, that forces a Manaphy search for Brent there. So there's all of these different components to the matchup. There's no one route to victory. It always changes. We know we've got the Cresselia on the Gardevoir side, and as we know, a little secret something with that Mew EX for Brent. That's going to be a great opportunity to come in and mix things up potentially in an unexpected way. So lots of options for both sides, and that's what makes these top players so good as they navigate through every route to victory.
And there is the 4th card in the Lost Zone. Here, he looks like he's going to be retreating to the Cram, as we've already mentioned. Takes the early KO. Brent left now with just 2 routes on the board, but often more than enough this is one of the few things which sometimes with Tina you have to be a bit wary of. With Gardevoir, they're playing cards like the Reversal Energy, being able to kind of just have that comeback mechanic. And that's sometimes why you just have to judge whether maybe Abyss Seeking is the right play, or maybe limiting the number of Curliers or different cards on Brent's side available. But as we do see a fantastic inclusion into his deck list, that Curlier with the Mirage Step, just instantly being able to place all those additional Curliers onto the board.
Yeah, we saw one Curlier prized, one Ralts prized. So this option will get 2 out of the deck. But you can see the early turn setting up as wide a board state for both sides is going to be key. And that Cresselia, an option that we often see against Lost Box, can be so vital as Cramorant can't hit that 120 number, only 110. So Cresselia does have that advantage there. And we'll be just seeing that Mirage Step to end the turn, a slower process for Brent, but one that will allow him to set up wide and have a better endgame.
Yep, still to have a board of 3 potential Gardevoirs on a following turn, because with 2 Curliers down, and then also that Routes being able to be rare candied up to one of the Guardies at a later turn. There's plenty of option as he does play the Iona first, of course, getting more cards into the hand, making sure if there were any Curliers there back into the deck, so that the Mirage Step is more valuable. Does get the Manaphy down as well. Fantastic inclusion into a lot of lists, trying to prevent things like that Greninja being able to come up to the front and actually taking 2 prizes.
So turn ending with a Mirage Step. Both the Refinement Curliers going down onto the bench. Full width bench here with the Manaphy, protecting everything there that can be hit by Greninja's Moonlight Shuriken. And this really looks like the dream board state for next turn, starting either Cresselia or evolving up all those Gardevoir lines into as big a Pokemon as possible to make it as tough for the Lost Box side of Giratina to deal with. Whereas we see those Giratina, they're going to be that main option to get rid of the Gardevoir EX on the other side. So Chorus Experiment to start off. So both players really optimal beginnings here. Maybe more thinning could be done on either side, but ultimately getting all the cards they need on board.
Yeah, that Greninja being able to just draw into 2 cards with that concealed cards ability has just put Victor with that Chorus's Experiment, now just deciding which cards he will be lost zoning there. A number of different options. Does still have the Cramorant in the active spot. Can take another KO on this Curlier in the active position. They're just kind of slightly turning the Radiant Greninja just so that we can see that it has been used. Does have the Jet Energy as well, so can continue going through the deck. And this is smart by Victor, needing to be able to push for the 10 as soon as possible, because as we've already mentioned, that Giratina V-Star is a card that will need to be used to take out a Gardevoir EX at some stage in this game.
For those of you tuning in now, we are in round 3 of the Lille Regional. We'll be going for 9 rounds today, so make sure to stick around all day long to see some of the best players making their way through. We've got an amazing game for you here to start things off. Brent coming all the way from the Oceanian region. A long journey for him to make it out to these regionals, but has been exploring the whole world to play Pokemon. And we get to see that performance right now with the Gardevoir on the left. Meanwhile, that Lost Tina hits the big 7 in the Lost Zone, so Mirage Gates are now active, and this is where the aggression begins. Yeah,
that Mirage Gate able to now allow Victor to grab any 2 different basic energies from the deck and attach to your Pokemon in any way you like. You know, just one of the other utility cards in the Lost Zone engine, as we do see another retreat back into the Cramorant, looking to take another prize and push himself down to 4 prizes remaining. Does get the path down as well, just to try and inhibit Brent's side of the board as much as possible. And there's the big KO with Spit instantly.
Excellent start for Victor. You'll be very happy to see the Path to the Peak until it's gone straight away by the Worker coming through, obviously in the deck specifically for that Path to the Peak. Such an important card to get rid of, as it will stop Gardevoir EX's ability, meaning the energy acceleration that is so powerful in this Gardevoir deck is not possible.
Yeah, exactly that. As we do see the Mew just being selected there from the level ball, just kind of making sure access to all of these cards. The Mew may be a little bit less useful, typically used on the earlier turns to try and grab those important cards like the Battle VIP Pass, as we do to see what looks to be a second refinement of that Mew into the discard, and Brent gets to draw another 2 cards to see what is available for himself. And here, just kind of evaluating his options. Does have the rare candy, does have the fog crystal, double checking what's available in his resources, of course, as well. Just double checking, I mean, how many energies are currently in the discard pile for a potential Gardevoir EX ability before being able to use something like the Cresselia to start swinging away.
Yeah, Psychic Embrace has such versatile use within this deck, but the main reason is for that building up a lot of energy on those attackers that have the 30 damage per psychic energy. That kind of attack is one that will take the Giratina V-Star, but at this stage, there is just a Cramorant in the active there, so maybe a lower energy requirement needed here. Maybe the Cresselia is an option, so there's loads of different routes, and this is where you've got to start working out what you've got, what your opponent's got on board, and find out the most likely route to victory. And with this matchup, it tends to go right down to the wire with the disruption of the Path to the Peak, Roxanne, Iono's evolved. Everything's about winning a turn back, making your opponent uncomfortable for a turn, and then being able to get ahead with that disruption.
Yeah, as we do see Brent just selecting that Ultra Ball target of the Gardevoir EX there, you know, likely evolving one up. Does also get another Shining Arcana down Gardevoir as well, another opportunity to draw additional cards, but if it does see any psychic energies from those two, does get a chance to immediately attach it to one of your Pokemon. As we do see them all come down now. There's the Gardevoir EX, just double checking all the energy cards that are in the discard. 3 more, it looks like, as he gets the Psychic Embrace off.
Yeah, and when you've got the Cresselia available, I think we always are excited to see that Cresselia in the active spot as a Gardevoir fan, because it's so annoying to get rid of, because if you get rid of the Cresselia, you're leaving all of the Gardevoir around. You know, there's 2 Gardevoir on the bench there, Gardevoir EX. You really want to be focusing on them, but all the while the Cresselia is around, it makes it very scary, because that doesn't just act as an attacker, but it can act as a healing attack as well when you start seeing chip damage from Sableye, etc. in the future. So at this stage, the Cresselia will be knocking out Comfey on the bench, and that's going to put it pretty close right now. And it really will come down to disruption later on to decide who wins this game. Yeah, that synergy between the Psychic Embrace Gardevoir EX and Cresselia's first attack, Moonglow Reverse, being able to remove 2 damage counters from each of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon there. Just being able to bypass the Cramorant in the active spot, leaving it sort of a little bit of an inefficient, you know, maneuverability on Victor's side of the board. But Victor does start his turn off with another back-to-back-to-back Chorus's Experiment. And it looks like I saw another Jet Energy there too. Well, that's dreamy, isn't it? We all dream of those Chorus Experiments back-to-back. So we'll see what they take off these 5 cards. I think we notice at this stage that both players have got everything on board, but what's in their hands, what's in their decks, is so reliant on the thinning throughout the game. You know, the Lost Engine uses the Chorus Experiment and the Flower Selecting as well as the Greninja to get through. But this is where you start seeing prize Greninjas are one of those cards that maybe that 2 cards every turn that they would have been able to draw would have been enough to get them to that end game state where they're a lot more thin. So sometimes those cards early on, you're like, you don't need them to set up, but end game, the thinning can be a big factor. Yeah, 100%. And I think just seeing and just kind of evaluating the board from our, you know, caster eye in the sky here, where we do see the escape rope being played and that Shining Arcana Gardevoir in the active spot with that reversal energy moving there. Brent's been trying to set up his board so that he can retaliate with any way, shape or form. You know, that reversal energy allowing to have 3 additional energies onto that incredible attack and being able to try and, you know, retaliate onto any Giratina V-Star attacks as well. Brent's put himself in a slightly maybe awkward position with just that 1 Gardevoir EX on the board. No other way to get it back again on the next turn if it does happen to go down. But it's not being targeted yet. I mean, the Giratinas right now are going to have to do some work. That's the big question, to try and zoom ahead. 4 prizes left for Victor. So if they can take out a Gardevoir EX, that's an amazing position to be in. to potentially be able to finish off either just taking a few smaller Pokemon or forcing another Gardevoir EX into play.
Yeah, exactly that. And you don't want to be, from Victor's side of the board, really utilizing a Giratina V-Star, because both are evolved up as well. You know, being able to lost impact and potentially lose 2 energies on a single prize is not really where you want to be. Sometimes you have to try and maybe weave in a Giratina V attack and just kind of take it out that way. But at the moment, it's just a switch card back into a Cramorant from Victor. So it might just be a little in a spit innocently once again.
Maybe, yeah, and the concealed cards came out afterwards. So definitely committing to the Cramorant route early, hoping to get that damage down. And I guess the advantage of that is the prize cards will mean the reversal energy will be less viable if they're at a similar stage, and then can just finish off with the Sableye down the line. So that's something to look out for. But that Path to the Peak, again, is such a key card in this matchup and can really earn a few turns back through disruption. So an interesting mid-game here for these two. Typically an interesting matchup generally because it can go the distance, can change at any moment with both decks playing a lot of disruption. But what we're seeing here is kind of swung back in favor of Gardevoir.
Yeah, I mean, based on the prizes, obviously not quite so much, but you know, just being able to either utilize this as an attacker in the active spot, or maybe even finding a way to retreat back into the Cresselia and just, you know, take out another Comfey on the bench again. But of course, does need to find a way to remove that Path to the Peak. Does play double Collapse Stadium and 2 workers. And of course, so that's kind of the way at the moment. That's also why Brent may have been sort of moving his energies in the way he has been so far. That reversal already activated on the board based on the prize counts as it currently stands. A number of options here. Shining Arcana, of course, still able to draw the 2 cards. So still being able to see a lot of resources there for Brent.
Well, we'll see how this turn plays out. With that Path to the Peak in play, it does act as a little bit of disruption against the Giratina V-Star, takes away their concealed cards. But if they don't need to get rid of it at this stage, it's important to not try and force it away, because you only got a limited amount of ways to bump stadiums with those workers and the Collapse Stadium in this particular version of Gardevoir. So 4 outs to get rid of it. We've seen the worker already used. So if there was disruption, you want to try and have as many options as possible if a Path to the Peak were to stick. So maybe we'll see at this stage just a return knockout and the Path to the Peak stay in play.
Yeah, definitely an option there. And I think this is really vital here from Brent, as we do see the Super Rod of the routes back into the deck, also alongside a level ball to get it back into the hand. Does have the worker in hand as well after all of the card draw. And is now able to once again utilize Psychic Embrace to potentially just kind of take out another Comfey and leave that awkward Cramorant in that active spot. So let's see how Brent now is able to play out his turn, having drawn an additional 3 cards. There is just a double check of the board state from Brent himself. There's what looks to be the retreat, which I believe seems to be, I would say, the smarter decision here, because again, the Cramorant is not able to do anything to the Cresselia.
And this is where we were speaking earlier about that Cresselia's attack not just being a way of putting damage onto the bench, but it can also be a way of healing some damage off. And you'll see that there with the Gardevoir with 110 damage on it. We'll be looking to just take that damage away and start to make it further and further away from that Sableye knockout, getting multiple prizes. So Cresselia at this point will be looking to target that Comfey down that's on the bench. Also taking away draw options. When there's no Comfey in play, that takes away a flower selecting each turn if the active does get knocked out. And that will be putting the prizes level. So now reversal energy no longer online.
No, not right now, but Brent in a bit of a precarious position there with that Gardevoir on the bench. Already got 90 damage on it, so 50 left. And of course, that route's only with 70 HP is perfect math for the Sableye to come down. But of course, Victor does need to find a way to move it into the active spot. Does have Mirage Gate in hand as well. Does he have 2 different energy types to be able to maneuver around? Looks like there's a water and a psychic and the grass as well. There's quite a few resources still left in there.
So this is an important turn here. 4 prizes left for Victor. Wants to try and take 2 prizes if possible. And at this stage, that might be quite tricky based off of what they got off that Mirage Gate.
Yeah, it looks like I was slightly wrong there. I didn't see the Psychic, actually. So having to now just utilize the Mirage Gate to as full effect as possible so that Victor, sorry, can actually continue progressing this game. Does need to find a way to get the energy back into the deck.
So we'll see now that grass energy is going to go down on the Greninja. I guess that's a retreat out. So just this is where that moment where you check and something doesn't quite go right, you'll struggle to find the options in the deck. Maybe needed to Super Rod beforehand, and we'll see whether those options are available. But on this occasion, the boss's orders is available. So Gardevoir EX, there's 10 in the Lost Zone, so we can see that the Star Requiem coming through for the Giratina V-Star, and the Path of the Peak in play. So taking away options, but that routes on the bench from earlier will open up a chance to get Gardevoir EX in play. Yeah,
definitely a big 2-hit KO there. Well, not 2-hit, big 2-prize KO there as the Cresselia now moves into the active spot. Brent there will be looking to once again try and bump that Path to the Peak and also get Psychic Embrace live once again. Let's see how Brent's able to maneuver this. Of course, does have access to Ionas as well, just to try and limit what Victor may be able to even do. Brent, if is able to take this knockout on this Giratina V-Star somehow, maybe utilizing the Shining Arcana Gardevoir with that fantastic Brainwave attack, which does 60 damage plus 30 for each Psychic Energy attached to it. But again, there's loads of different options. The Mew has been targeted as the Ultra Ball target here. Could we see a genome hacking?
Well, the downside of the genome hacking is that will leave a 2-prizer in the active that will be in range of the Lost Impact. So there is a Giratina V-Star on the bench who could attack, but it needs a lot of energy at this stage. So maybe looking back at that grass energy on the Greninja, would that have been able to help by being on the Giratina V-Star? But we saw in deck there's no more Psychic, no more grass, so there's quite a lot to get off this turn. And this is where we see Lost Tina really struggle, is if it doesn't have a stable board state, it can be very vulnerable to disruption in those final turns if you don't have the energy in play already.
Yeah, definitely. Brent now eyeing up, utilizing that Super Rod, maybe to get some of those vital pieces back as well. Looks like it's targeting that Gardevoir EX and a Curlier, just to be able to kind of get back into this game. Of course, currently sitting at 5 prizes with Victor just with 2 remaining. Just a few or 3 remaining.
I think Brent's got 4 prizes remaining.
Of course, taken out 2 Comphase with the Cresselias already. So we'll make sure that's updated for you viewers at home as well. So all good spots for both players. Let's see how this naturally navigates out.
Yeah, and as we said, that Mew EX, an interesting card that we'll see included a lot over the weekend. Very good in this particular situation because you've not only got the Giratina V-Star that you can copy, but the Greninja is another option in different scenarios, can be quite good. So Mew EX very versatile in this matchup. A unique bit of text on a card having to copy your opponent's attack. Typically the cards that are more viable are ones that copy your own Pokemon's attack or Pokemon in your discard. They tend to do quite well, but copying your opponent's attack relies so heavily on what your opponents can do with their attack. Like, you can't copy Gardevoir EX because that requires you to have the Psychic Energy and so on. So a very unique card that works specifically against these kinds of powerhouse cards like Giratina V-Star.
Yeah, we do see it come down to the board and the Collapse Stadium played. So the Manaphy has gone to the discard pile now, as we do see another refinement here from Brent's side of the board. Just trying to figure out what the game plan is here right now. You know, there's limited options from Victor's side of the board, but we did just see in that hand from the Iono, there is a boss there and an energy. So that could spell in trouble for Brent Tonisson.
Yeah, 100%. And by getting rid of that Manaphy, it opens up the ability for Radiant Greninja to be an attack if needed. There's also the option for
just a Lost Impact.
Yeah, just a straight up boss.
Oh, but it does hit the reversal. So if it's able to take the knockout here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. And then another 3 on top. That's 7. 210 plus the 60. 270. Just 1 remaining. If that's right.
Just trying to work out here what the numbers are. Oh, they're just making sure that they put the full numbers on there.
Rather than just the 1 remaining, just to, just to make sure for everyone, for us and the viewers at home to be able to follow along. But I believe it's just the energy attachment and the boss in hand, which is a perfect Iono. And that's the 6 prizes taken for Victor's side of the board, and we'll be taking round 3, game 1.
Exactly, and as we mentioned, at any given moment, that could all change. That whole game could have gone either way. It's just those 1 or 2 turns which don't quite get the prizes that you need. You don't quite hit the tempo that you need, and suddenly it goes in favor of the other side. Gardevoir just being a little bit too slow in that matchup, not quite able to get ahead or disrupt at the end of the game. I mean, you mentioned energy boss.
Yeah.
What a dreamy hand to have in that final moment.
It worked out perfectly there for Victor, who will be taking this round 3 game 1. We'll be going into game 2. Still plenty of time on the clock. Of course, for Brent to maybe try and turn it around, or maybe for Victor to take this round 2-0. Both players currently sitting on 2-0 record, so in great positions already as part of their start of today. But Brent's on a bit of a back foot now.
That's one of the big challenges with these kinds of decks which can go the distance. They take a bit of time to work through. When it goes that full distance, you start to worry about fitting your full best of 3 in, because you don't know until the final moment if you're going to win it. So game 1 will often go for over half the time, because you've got to check, you've got to find out, will my disruption stick? Will that path to the peak stick? Will the Iono stick? And on this occasion, the Iono didn't stick, and the Giratina V-Star was able to squeeze through at the end. Yeah,
exactly that. And Brent was only really just 1 energy away from essentially taking the game down.
Exactly.
Victor didn't really have much else. There wasn't really any Pokemon on the board that was set up with any further energies to maybe then, retaliate in some sort of way. There were no Psychics, of course, in the deck itself when he had to check through Mirage Gate. As we do have a little look once again at the prizes, and it's double Shining Arcana on Brent's side of the board.
And a Gardevoir EX. So 3 Gardevoir in the prizes there, leaving just the 1 Gardevoir EX available for that full evolution, but also the Cresselia found in there, and there is no Heavy Ball. I know some people have dabbled with Heavy Ball in their Gardevoir lists, and I think on this occasion, you'd think, oh, I wish I could get that Cresselia. So a different route will need to be taken this game. No longer the sniping of the Comphase with the Cresselia will be available.
Yeah, once again, Brent going first. Playing obviously a little bit quicker now, knowing he's already 1 game down in this series. Just will have to double check what is available to him. Like I said, still plenty of time. Over 22 minutes on the clock right now. Battle VIP Pass has already been played. Concealed Cards has already been used. Does have Zacian V in the hand now, which could be an attacker here in this scenario. Maybe getting that energy accelerated to the board soon as well. Just an option.
Yeah, we saw how close this matchup can be in that last game. Like you said, just 1 energy the difference. And that's what it takes at these top tables. The best players know the outs. It's just whether they can hit them sometimes. They're reaching for those toughest outs because they know if they do the easier options, there's no point in it. There was no point in taking a smaller knockout or rushing a knockout earlier on. You have to make sure you set up stably and you put it into the best board state possible for you. And if it doesn't work out, that's when sometimes you miss. And on this occasion, Giratina V-Star played everything out as intended. It worked out, and even that boss into the Gardevoir EX is exactly what that Star Requiem's for.
Yeah, exactly that. And, Brent's just passed over his turn after the energy attachment to that route. And Victor also kicking things off with his own Battle VIP Pass as well, double-checking what is prized for himself, being able to then use that information to navigate around his own turns. Does target this time the Giratina V and the Comfey onto the bench with that. Does have a Nest Ball in hand as well, so plenty of opportunities to get Pokemon down and maybe start utilizing a number of different avenues for this game.
I always love it when people have their own way of doing deck checks. We saw there the pushing the cards up to be able to see them, particularly the energies there, and then even just setting up for the whole turn. You saw that Nest Ball. He didn't even have to look through the deck when he got the Nest Ball. He just slid it off the back because he knew exactly where it was and prepped it all from the beginning of the turn. And that's that future thought that these top players have.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's going to be on Victor now to maybe start weaving and dancing around with those Comphase, using flower selecting where possible. There's the first flower selecting. 2 cards the top of the deck. One goes into your hand, one into the lost zone. Was a choice between water energy and the jet, so the jet will allow maneuverability as well now as well. Ooh, I said that multiple times, as we see multiple flower selectors come along too.
And the escape rope, getting the Manaphy out of the active, not worried about that at this stage. Wants to try and find something in the active that could potentially be knocked out with Cramorant if that's an option, but maybe we'll even just see an Abyss Seeking here.
Yeah, unique with that jet energy, allowing Victor to potentially push that Giratina V into the active spot. Does find the Chorus's Experiment off that flower selecting. Massive there, because now there's the option, if Cramorant wasn't prized, to potentially try and take a KO here.
Yeah, especially as there's a Nest Ball in that Chorus Experiment. I don't know what was in the hand. I think I saw a Greninja in there too. So a lot going on in this first turn, and of course you have to go first as an evolving deck, as Gardevoir EX needs to set up as wide as possible, but Lost Box is one of the best decks going second at still hitting a good tempo.
Yeah, exactly that, and we do see the Greninja move to the front of his hand there, knowing the opportunities. Does look like he's eyeing up that Abyss Seeking turn, and I really like this. Just being able to kind of ramp up so much more quicker, you know. Of course, he doesn't know Brent only has access to one Gardevoir EX, but as soon as that comes down, if you're quicker to the 10, being able to Star Requiem earlier and take it out, fantastic opportunity to just go ahead. And there's the Abyss Seeking. Look at the top 4 of your deck. Choose 2 to go into your hand and the other 2 into the Lost Zone. So up to 6 now.
Yeah, 6 in the Lost Zone. Wonderful start. You couldn't ask for anything more. There is a Lost Vacuum in the Giratina V-Star list, not always included, but will allow for that accelerated approach towards the big 10 in the Lost Zone. But 6 on turn 1, avoiding attacking, knowing that that's not important at this stage, and instead getting a high loss count will be more important. So double Giratina down, double Comfey. We've got the Sableye ready for next turn, which is very likely at this stage. Yeah. And a Colrus off of the Colrus. Everything looking wonderful. I think we might need to see an Iono, otherwise this could quickly get out of hand.
Unfortunately, just on Brent's side of the board, it was a very quick turn, evolving up to that Mirage step Curlier once again, and getting a full board, well, a full board actually of all Curliers. It's not, of course, having now played one of the Mirage steps, there's only 3 Refinement Curliers available in the deck.
And we're quite lucky because we got to see those prize cards. So my question is, what are those Curliers going to evolve into? Because there's not a huge amount left available. Of course, the Refinement being an incredible ability to motor through that deck, but there's no Gardevoir available.
No, just that one Gardevoir EX somewhere in the deck right now. Hopefully Brent's been able to, you know, despite having to play a little bit quicker to try and finish this game. Gardevoir not known to finish too many sets of 3. We'll be trying to target that Gardevoir EX as soon as possible. Does have that Zacian V attacker in the hand as well. We'll need to find a way to collapse and use multiple cards to get there. But let's see how Brent's able to navigate that, as you know, we're moving over to Victor already.
So, water and a Giratina V off of that Colrus into the Lost Zone. I think that's 2 water now in the Lost Zone, so Greninja is not an option anymore. Very hard to get off sometimes when you get an early water into the Lost Zone. But on this occasion, the focus is going to be those Giratina. But this is so fast onto that Mirage Gate. Going to be setting up the Sableye even, which is something you often don't see turn 2 for Giratina V-Star. So all the pieces coming together here, and that other side is looking good, but as we know, the prize cards really do not help for the Gardevoir player at this stage.
Yeah, Victor really in a super spot here. Lots of options in hand. Jet Energy to the Comfey will be able to actually push for the 10 this turn and actually start using that Sableye, which we didn't see at all in game 1. And it's been a bit of a staple of the Lost Zone engines to get to that 10, get Lost Mine off and start targeting down those lower HP Pokemon.
The main way Curlier will get out of that range will be to evolve, and so we'll see the Curlier that gets damage on it off the back of this Sableye may be the one that gets evolved, and we'll probably see the Mirage Step one stuck around because that can't do much now. It's used its attack. So it's not only getting knockouts, but it's taking away the draw engine. Yeah,
that path to the peak coming down, the second Sableye coming down, and it is the Lost Mine being activated. Oh, just double checking that he's using it on the bench Refinement Curlier, 80 damage and 40 on another, trying to just prep them ready for future turns. There's a worker bumping already that path to the peak. What does Brent draw there?
A lot of stuff that's not particularly useful. Rare candy doesn't work when you've got only curlies in play.
There's a routes that I think went to hand, the concealed cards. There's Iono. There's the Mew that we've spoken so much about. Another refinement, the final one of this turn. Do not see a way to get Gardevoir EX currently, it looks like, which means some of those curlies are going to be susceptible to another Lost Mine potentially.
Yeah, when you're going into your second game and you're down a game, you're really pushing to try and find a route, even if this could have been one of those games where in another scenario you check those prizes and you think, not worth it, let's go next, once you start to see those early turns. But you have to play it out at this stage. So we're going to be seeing on the back foot Brent, see what they can do under pressure. The Australian come all this way. They are Australian, right?
Correct.
I mean, you always assume Australian. I've nationed so many people from New Zealand to Australia just through the years that I always forget that I've got to check. But yeah, Australian player here in Lille. It's going to be a tough game here on the feature table. Just
a pass there, as we do see Lost Mine being activated straight after another Psychic Energy attachment to that Sableye. Looks like Victor's just trying to see how he's targeting it down. Does choose to take out the Rolls and the damage curly already, leaving 1 damage left on that refinement curlier on the bench there for Brent. Does have the reversal energy, has another psychic, or not psychic, rare candy there as well. But what will Brent be able to do? I think it's just playing down some cards in hand. Reversal energy attached to the active, and an Iono's coming down. Does Brent know about the Gardevoirs?
I wonder, because he did do a very quick deck check because he's trying to play a little bit faster, and that's one of the disadvantages of having to play faster is you have to cut corners, and checking your prizes can often be one of those things. You might check a few things here and there, but we've got to find out, do they know? Do they know there's no Gardevoirs except for that one Gardevoir EX?
Yeah, just those cards again not looking like it's too helpful right now. Just kind of double checking what's available there. There's the Psychic Energy being grabbed. I'm sure Brent must know by now. You know, just having to try and hit that Gardevoir EX. Just again going through that deck, thinning it as much as possible. And there's 2 Psychic Energies there, double level ball as well, all insta playables as a matter of fact. Both the Mew and the Routes coming down. That's 4 cards just being added to the hand and taken out of the deck.
Got a thin.
Got a thin. There's the refinement. It's just a 1. Is it enough? Does he pull it off?
There was no Ultra Ball in hand, so has to natural draw. Oh, there we go. The Ultra Ball off of that refinement. Had to draw into a way to get to the Gardevoir EX. Found it there. That's why all that thinning was happening before, to increase the odds of a Gardevoir EX or Ultra Ball coming through. Now we have to see what are the options here. The Gardevoir EX in the active is going to look to try and knock out the Sableye maybe, but might need to protect it. There's so many things to try and think about here on this comeback. There's 3 prizes, I believe, taken for Victor. So it's going to be a tough one to try and bounce back here for Brent. Down 3 prizes at this stage.
Remember that reversal energy not activated because it is attached to a Pokemon EX. And that's why Brent had to use Psychic Embrace to the active Gardevoir EX as well. Of course, that attack there with the energy cost of 2 Psychic and 1 Colorless Miracle Force, dealing 190, dealing with the Sableye, but still in a precarious position. That Sableye on the bench is eyeing up that Curlier with already that 1 damage counter on it, as Victor starts things off with that Comfy Flower selecting.
Let's see. Mirage Gate. What are they going to be able to do? Are they going to be able to knock out that Gardevoir EX? And at that point, it becomes very tricky. 1 prize remaining. Lots of low HP Pokemon available for Sableye. So this stage, I mean, Giratina V-Star can be quite tricky to get when you're playing the deck because there's no real answer to find it. You have to just dig for it.
Exactly that.
You've got plenty of draw. That's not normally a problem for Lost Engines, but you still have to naturally draw into it. So there's every chance right now that the Giratina V-Star might not be hit.
No, definitely the way for this deck. And we've seen like an adaptation already from Victor. So we saw from game 1 where he fully evolved the Giratina Vs to V-Stars quite early, quite quickly. This time has the option to use things like the Giratina V's Shred attack, being able to just kind of go through and use the V instead of evolving up to a V-Star, wasting it potentially, and if it gets returned KO, just finding it a bit more awkward to get it back.
Yeah, and 3 prizes remaining for Victor means at this stage, a big two prize knockout would be huge.
I wonder what was there available. There's a Greninja, it looks like. There's a V-Star in hand to retaliate.
No V-Star.
Oh, EX, sorry?
I think that's a nice artwork boss's orders. It looks a bit like a V-Star. Putting the path down now, so Greninja won't go down for more draw.
I guess just, again, thinking about maybe just targeting that Curlier on the bench with that Sableye. You know, he's ready to go with another Lost Mine available. Maybe just prep a bit more damage on the Gardevoir, then Lost Impact can take the knockout instead of having to utilize Star Requiem for latter turns, if even needed here. But Sableye, yep, targeting that Curlier with 70 of the 12 damage counters, so 7 of the 12 damage counters, 5 remaining.
Maybe prep the Mew, would that be an option for a shred?
Yeah, a number of options here. Just everything going in Victor's favor, in all honesty, as he does spread the damage counters across the Manaphy and the Greninja there.
Just accepting that the Sableye route might have to be the end game, and if not, Giratina V-Star will do an amazing job of dealing with whatever's in front of it. So still so far ahead for Victor at this stage. It surely has to be a comfortable position for him that he's willing to just take it slower here and just set up a solid board state.
Yeah, the collapsed stadium comes down to just try and limit what Victor may be able to do on a future turn, also bumping that path to the peak. Iono there being played, Brent playing the four full copies of it in the deck list as well, just trying to disrupt where possible. It is just a bit of an awkward scenario now because there are 2 multi-prizes on Brent's side of the board, just on the bench waiting with not as much HP as that Gardevoir in the active spot.
Exactly. So these final draws off that Iono could be huge. And we mentioned last game, Victor was quite fortunate to get the exact cards needed off of the Iono. Will that happen this time, or will we see a little bit of a slower few turns to try and get back into the game? I mean, all it is needed is an energy to get a shred off, so maybe that's in hand.
There's a Miracle Force taking out Sableye again. The
oh, there it is.
V just in hand from the Iono.
Holding those cards down.
Yeah. Iono has not been able to help Brent too much there, and Victor is able to take down round 3 of our feature match.
Both Ionos to 2 going in favor of Victor there, and there were so many options available left in the deck, and the Giratina V-Star was, of course, a likely draw with so many left available, but that is the challenge of this matchup. That first game was so tough. 1 energy was the difference to potentially winning it, and on that second game, it was just too much to ask for Brent with those tough prize cards and the long journey to victory.
Yeah, congratulations to Victor. Moving on to round 4 with a 3-0-0 record in a fantastic spot to try and claim a space into day 2 and try and progress further in this tournament. Brent, you know, 1 loss. It's not something he's going to be too unhappy about. He's still 2-1 right now, still in a very good spot to maybe progress through the day, and we'll be following along both players and everyone that we feature on stream, of course. But yeah, congratulations to Victor.